Last time Kyosuke had reported that Maruyuki-san was doing well, but of course Kagome wasn't satisfied with that. My phone was most likely tapped, but Kagome remained adamant. She called her grandfather from a telephone box. Do you remember the place we'd meet when I was little? It was something like a secret cipher that only the two of them knew. Do you really think Maruyuki-san won't be followed? Even if he is. She responded as if I'd upset her. If Kobayashi-Jun ever wanted to hurt me, he had every opportunity and plenty of time to do so. Why didn't you talk to him when you found out? I mean, from your mother. I finally summoned the courage to ask her, even though I was sure that this wasn't the most fun topic for Kagome. That was right. He wasn't burning with desire to contact me himself, even though he knew we were related. He knew how my mom had suffered. Indeed, that day at the Kobayashi Corporation building, I had been the only one invited to meet him. It seemed strange to me even then. I could understand his situation, but even when Mom died. Kagome sniffed, almost about to fall into tears. When I really needed help. I finally understood the reasons for her attitude toward Ellie a bit better than before. Of course, it would have been easy to accuse Iwamura of envy. How come Ellie had it all and she had nothing? But there was a clear realization in my mind that in Kagome's position, I would have felt the same. Even after her mother, Kobayashi-Jun's own daughter, died, he refused to act. It was no wonder that Kagome hated not only him, but everyone associated with him. Although Ellie, of course, was blameless. So I just don't want to talk about it. Alright. We were meeting her grandfather by the waterfront, near their burned-down restaurant. By then, I'd already given up trying to apply any logic to the corporation's actions, or lack thereof, so I'd also given up on looking over my shoulder all the time. Who would have thought? Kagome suddenly smirked. What is it? I always hated this salty air, the constant smell of fish, all the noise and yelling. But now I feel... Nostalgia? Finished her line gently. Yeah, I guess it is nostalgia. Nostalgia is when you remember fondly the things that used to seem ordinary. Last thing I want to remember is the stench of fish. Kagome parried stubbornly but smiled. Maruyuki-san was already waiting for us. While they hugged each other, I stood aside, feeling awkward. Would it be a good idea to tell him Kagome and I were a thing? I'm pretty sure he already assumed that, my guy.
Are you well? You seem to have lost some weight.
Growing up, then getting old, personally basically comes full circle in a sense, becomes a child again. Watching their reunion, I involuntarily smiled, that natural, kind smile that comes to your face when you watch small children. I had to work a lot, Grandpa. But we were doing fine, I didn't mind. My experience working at the restaurant helped a lot, too.
Nico-kun,
He released Kagome from his embrace and turned to me.
I am very grateful that you've been taking care of my granddaughter.
And he gave me a low bow. No, it's fine, don't. I felt awkward. How have you been, Grandpa?
Pretty well, thank God. Kyosuke-kun helped me a lot.
He looked at me apologetically and smiled.
Here, take this.
He handed Kagome a pretty weighty bundle. What? No, I can't accept this. Though after buying that yukata, we could definitely use some money. You know how much Tokyo hotels cost, but they would obviously be more expensive than a room in a mining village hundreds of kilometers away from the capital.
Take it!
I whispered quietly. Oh wait, that was Nikolai. I whispered quietly, but Kagome immediately turned to me and exclaimed, Nico-san, how could we do that?
Nico-kun is right. You two could use the money.
He changed his approach and handed the package over to me. I quickly put it in my pocket, trying to ignore Kagome's angry look. Grandpa, where did you get such money?
I remembered I had a deposit in a bank. There's no joy in getting old. You forget everything.
But we can't keep hiding forever. We've returned to Tokyo to... Kagome stopped mid-word as if something made her lose her train of thought. I think it's time for me to finally clear things up with Kobayashi-Jun and get my dad back. We've never discussed this, but Mom... She suddenly went quiet and cast a quick glance at me as if looking for support. I've told Nico-san. Suddenly Kagome laughed. How could I hide it from him after everything we've been through? Grandpa, you know my mother was really Kobayashi-Jun's daughter, right? After those words, Maruyuki-san kept smiling, not even batting an eye. It was clear he had no idea what Kagome was talking about. So you don't.
Kagome-chan, what are you talking about? Yuno-san.
He suddenly knit his thick eyebrows together. Wait, his what? I'm sorry, his what? His thick eyebrows? You want to run that by me again? Look at that man. Look at that man's eyebrows. Fucking Kagome's eyebrows are thicker than his. The hell do you mean his thick eyebrows? And for the first time, I could see a glint of intelligence in his eyes.
You do realize that Shinji and your mother hadn't always been on good terms. I knew Yuno-san's mother a little, but I had no idea who her father was, and Shinji didn't talk much about his family life. That divorce hit him hard, so he threw himself into his work.
Sorry to interrupt, but the old man and his granddaughter turned to me with the same expression of discontent in their eyes, and I've become so familiar with lately. It doesn't seem like Kobayashi Jun is particularly bothered by having illegitimate children otherwise. I stopped because what I was about to say was probably insensitive. Oh, he would have dealt with the problem long ago. Kagome finished for me. Is that what you wanted to say, Nico-san? I didn't respond, but averted my gaze in embarrassment.
But Kagome-chan, what are you going to do next? Where are you going to live?
I'll call you myself tomorrow, at more or less the same time.
But...
Moriyuki-san froze for a moment, and shifted his gaze to me and bowed, not so deeply this time.
I'm counting on you, Nico-kun.
After he left, I slowly counted the money in the bundle. Wow. I whistled in surprise. It was a solid roll of large bills. Don't you want to give them to me, Nico-san? Nope, let's consider payment for my services. What services? My services. You know. Kagome was about to express her indignation, but said nothing in the end. Alright, it's gonna get dark soon. Gotta find a place to sleep. The cheap Tokyo hotel I chose didn't look much different than the one we'd been living in just yesterday. Yes, it looked a bit newer, but mostly followed the same budget-friendly style. Maybe we should have gotten a room somewhere fancy with Moriyuki-san's money. They weren't as likely to look for us there. Besides, why not just enjoy a little luxury before death? Kagome entered the room, gave it an examining look, and sat on the bed. So what made you choose this room? She asked playfully, patting the invitingly bouncy mattress. I wasn't even thinking about that. Fine. First I need to change. Kagome did indeed stand out. A yukata isn't exactly something you wear daily. Oh, yeah, of course. So what are you waiting for? What am I waiting for? You've got the money. Right, sorry. Kagome went to a clothing store by herself. I just asked her not to go too far from the hotel. Meanwhile, I had to think things through. I hadn't stopped Kagome from coming to Tokyo, but I also couldn't let her go alone. But what were we supposed to do next? Obviously, she could no longer fight her desire to save her father no matter what. But after that failed attempt at blackmail, we had no other ways to influence the corporation. And to be frank, I doubted more and more with each passing day that Akira Shinji was still alive. I didn't know what Kagome used to wear before when she was living with her mother, but she bought more or less the same clothes she'd been wearing, a pair of jeans and a simple sweater. Yeah, it's almost like it's the exact same thing. At least she wouldn't stand out in a crowd. But it had already gotten dark when she returned. What took you so long? I was worried. Nico-san, I am a woman, you know. Yeah, right. I smirked, giving a meaningful look to those clothes she'd bought. Kagome threw a bag at me, the yukata falling out of it, and threw herself under the bed. I waited for her to calm down. Maybe now you'll tell me your plan? While she was shopping, I had been desperately trying to come up with something, but to no avail. As if I were being forced to resolve one of the Millennium Challenges. I, a simple-minded straight-C student. I seemed to have hit an impenetrable wall. If you have one, of course. She grinned and looked like she had already personally brought Kobayashi Jun to court. Do you think I'm as reckless as you are, Nico-san? I think you shouldn't forget that by kidnapping Ellie, you made the old... I think you shouldn't forget that by kidnapping Ellie, you made the old man choose which of his granddaughters matters more to him. Kagome's facial expression immediately changed and she grit her teeth. He made his choice long ago. Exactly my point. So you want me to say I dropped everything, came back to Tokyo without having thought what I'll be doing here? Well, we had a good reason to drop everything. Although I really did believe Kagome had been acting on emotion. Deep down, she must have been sure Kobayashi Jun wouldn't hurt her. I wanted to believe that when we were hiding in that village, she'd been thinking of my safety first. All we've really done so far is exchange one hotel for another, this one closer to Kobayashi Corporation's office. Kagome said nothing, covered herself with a blanket, and turned away. If you really don't know what to do next, there's nothing wrong with that. You can talk to me. She didn't like showing her weaknesses, and no matter how you looked at it, having no plan was one. If we think it through together, we'll definitely come up with something. In reality, I didn't even believe that myself. Nico-kun, if you have nothing to say, it's better to say nothing. She grumbled without turning around. I can understand her condition. At least I wanted to think so. This kind of reaction to everything I said was starting to get on my nerves. You're acting like it's all my fault. Isn't it? Who decided I shouldn't know your red-headed friend was going to that festival? I told you, Himitsu said she wouldn't go. Himitsu said, "Ha! Who's more important to you, her or me? Tell him, Queen." Kagome, please don't start this again. I walked to the window and looked outside, more for the sake of it than because I really hoped to see something there. What? Are you looking for her? I loudly clicked my tongue, putting all my frustration into the sound. I'm not keeping you here, Nico-san. Enough already, I shouted, no longer able to deal with her unprovoked attacks. Surprisingly enough, the whole time we've been living in the village, we never had a serious fight. I couldn't even recall any small ones. It only took 12 hours in Tokyo for Kagome to start treating me like a public enemy. Stop venting your anger on me. If you told me earlier that you're Kobayashi-jun's granddaughter, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. What situation? Kagome asked snidely, finally turned to me and threw the blanket off. God damn it, y'all bunch of idiots. No longer happy I came into your life, huh? Probably would have preferred to stay with your Himitsu and not have to deal with all these extra problems. And you only slept with me because there was no one better around. I was about to get offended and object, but then I realized that there was actually some truth to Kagome's words. How dare you? Meeting her had really put an end to my steady, peaceful, and even boring life. It made me lose Himitsu's love and our friendship. I could persuade myself all I wanted that that wasn't true, but most importantly, what had I gotten in return? You know, maybe you're right. We always find and lose something in life. I'm really glad I met you and fell in love with you, even if my life changed because of it. Kagome clearly hadn't expected that from me. She sat up in bed and stared at me without even trying to conceal her surprise. I don't want to go back to what I used to have. I want to move forward. Together. I'm just worried it might get us killed, that's all. I really want you to understand that, and not hide anything from me, so we can overcome difficulties together, even if they seem impossible. Nico-san. Tears swelled in Kagome's eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean that all. I just don't want you to get hurt because of me. Overcome by emotion, I walked to her, hugged her, and stroked her hair. I understand. I just really don't know what to do next. And I'm afraid to admit it, even to myself. I'm sorry. She was sobbing. I understand. We'll figure this all out somehow. The springy mattress really was conducive to intimacy. Aaron was lying on top of Kagome, kissing her on the lips, then on the neck, then lower. Wow, y'all just regular fuck machines, huh? 10:30. Well, we're gonna end this all with a nice little Halloween party. Game over. We did it. Lo hicimos. Lately, I was too often haunted by the feeling of helplessness. I know what to do next. Literally. It's not that I was unable to choose from a few different options or that I doubted which one was best. Even after kidnapping Ellie, Kagome hadn't managed to get her father released. The fact that Kobayashi-jun was her grandfather didn't change much. Perhaps she really was in less danger compared to me. That only made me feel more powerless. My love for Kagome felt nothing like the feelings I'd had for Catherine. I would wake up and smell the scent of her hair, see the spark of joy in her eyes when she was joking, be genuinely upset when she was angry. Not that we had been living together for that long, but it was already hard for me to imagine that it could one day end. Especially so soon. When I woke up, Kagome wasn't there. There was no point in panicking right away. Who knew why she might have stepped out? The sun had only begun to rise above the horizon. I tossed and turned to bed, yawned a few times, and then got up. In my half-asleep state, the hotel room seemed strange. I thought I didn't want to stay here for very long. I was about to go clean up and brush my teeth when Kagome returned. Good morning. However, a grim expression made me refrain from a kiss. Did something happen? No, why would you think that? Where have you been? Just wanted to unwind. Unwind? I repeated, trying to figure out what she was thinking. But Kagome was unreadable. Nico-san, I'm sorry. I forgot it was time for breakfast. It's alright, no worries. Good then, I'll go get us something. She responded without much interest. It's just the money? Oh, right, sure. Took a few bills out of the wallet without looking, handed them to her. Clearly much more than was needed for a normal breakfast. Something seemed to have changed in Kagome overnight. While she was out buying food, I was spiraling into my own thoughts, trying to understand what exactly. To no avail, though. Eventually, she came back with a bag of snacks and a couple sodas. Not that I expected a feast, but usually Kagome cooked herself instead of buying stuff from vending machines. Is anything wrong, Nico-san? She knows my confused expression. Well, no, everything's fine. We ate in silence. I avoided looking at Kagome while trying to figure out what I'd done wrong this time. What are your plans for the day, Nico-san? My plans? I asked her, puzzled, even smirked slightly in surprise. What are yours? I, for some reason, thought we had a few problems to deal with. Yes, of course, she said again in a tone that sounded like it had nothing to do with her at all. It's a pity you've given up. I tried to get a reaction. I haven't given up, Nico-san. But to no effect. I knew coming back to Tokyo was a bad idea. I grumbled, and Kagome finally showed signs of life. What? So rescuing my father is a bad idea, you think? Well, what are you doing to rescue him? I'm 100% with you on that, but so far... I grabbed a pack of chips, fidgeted with it, then threw it back. We're sitting in this crummy hotel eating this, and you're acting like you should be this way. You really have to come back to Tokyo for this? Calm down, Nico-san. Kagome replied coldly. In truth, I was more worried about her indifference than anything else. It seemed that after the last night, something changed, and I was the one to blame for it. As if Kagome no longer saw a future for our relationship. I just didn't know how to express it clearly without shouting and swearing. You know, I'd never felt like I was second fiddle before. I mean, I sighed deeply to some of my courage. He kidnapped Ellie, and I was presented with a fait accompli. I don't know how that's properly pronounced. He returned to Tokyo, and again, made it a that. I'm not used to being led around like this. Kagome wasn't saying anything, he just kept carefully straightening a wrapper. Fine, that's not even the main problem. If there's something you're thinking, share it with me. Otherwise it's fatalism, apathy, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe you really don't give a damn. You're just hiding it from me for some reason. Nico-san. Kagome finally raised her eyes to me, and I saw weariness in them. It seemed to have come from nowhere. Then we heard muted shouts from behind a wall. A male and a female voice. They were quarreling, soundproofing between rooms, leaving much to be desired. Do you want us to end up like that? I smiled and looked at Kagome, expecting a reaction. She remained still for quite a long time, but finally her face betrayed a poorly contained smile. Nico-san, I can't even get angry at you properly. Get angry at me? For what? I laughed with her. Felt my anxiety gradually start to retreat. Sorry for shouting at you. No, sorry for behaving like that. I guess I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. I was tempted to keep asking her questions, but restrained myself. Peace, then? I reached out to Kagome. Peace. She shook my hand. Nice. We walked outside because it was unbearable to stay in that tiny hotel room for an entire day. Fresh air better stimulates the brain. Is that fucking Phoenix Wright? Motherfucker, is that fucking Phoenix Wright reading a newspaper? What the fuck? Hey yo, what the lawyer doing? Like, it was one thing when Alyssa from Everlasting Summer makes a cameo appearance. Like, yeah, no, that's one of, Soviet Game's own characters making that was a nice little touch. Fucking Phoenix, right? Like, obviously that's why they have his face covered with the newspapers. Like, no, that's just random man in suit, as if that suit and hair aren't fucking immediately recognizable. How dare you? What the fuck is Phoenix Wright he doing here? I gotta screenshot that. Oh, that's hilarious. Nico-san, where did you go on dates with that American girl? Kagome suddenly asked me in a totally innocent tone. On dates? I don't even know. I was a bit dumbfounded as the question seemed totally out of the blue. What, you don't want to go there with me? No, it's not about that, it's just the most appropriate moment for that, Kagome. She mocked me. Well, yeah, that's obvious. If we can't come up with anything, then what's the point in hiding in one place and waiting for them to find us? But that doesn't mean we had to jump into their hands ourselves. Is that what I wanted to respond with? But didn't. What if we don't get another chance? I stopped and looked at Kagome. She looked up into my eyes and it felt so intense that I couldn't resist any longer. Alright, fine, let's go. Bye, Phoenix. The amusement park was probably the last place to be looking for us. Why'd you bring me here exactly? Kagome asked with surprise. That's what you wanted. Alright. There weren't as many people here as I expected. That made me feel a little tense, since it's always easier to go unnoticed in a crowd. Relax already, Nico-san. Kagome noticed my condition. I stopped and looked around. Do you want some candy floss? I don't like candy floss. Why? Because it feels like insulation. Ugh, disgusting. Right. I giggled and immediately felt myself calming down. What do you usually do here? Have you never been to an amusement park? No. Kagome replied even too innocently and sincerely. Well, for example, there's the Ferris wheel. Oh, please tell me there's a nice Ferris wheel moment. I love me a Ferris wheel moment. I waved in the direction of the wheel. Come on, looks like something. Come on, that looks like something for kids. Are you afraid of heights? I teased her. Not at all. All right, all right. I decided not to torture her any longer. There's a ghost house. Going there with Himitsu wouldn't be a good idea. That's boring. Do you want to shoot at targets from a rifle? I don't know how. Well, finally, something you can't do. I flung my arms from the air and dropped down onto a bench nearby. People go on dates to have fun. Aren't we having fun? Kagome was doing everything wrong, and I began to doubt whether she really knew how to spend time with someone she loved, apart from fighting for each other's lives. If you don't like it here... No, I do. She sat down next to me and took me by the hand. It's very peaceful here. A clown walked by us and blew his horn right into my face. Clowns. I can never understand why they show them to children. Kagome laughed and held my hand tighter. Maybe we've just come here too early, when everything's over. Yes, when everything's over. I pulled Kagome to me and kissed her gently. Suddenly, it's as if we were like the only people alive in the world alive in a world of the dead. As if it were a zombie movie, and had barricaded ourselves in a basement against the hordes of undead. Or we're standing on the edge of a cliff and waiting in resignation for the monsters to throw us into the abyss. This feeling of hopelessness was fueling my desire to achieve mental unity with Kagome. I wanted us to be close, not only physically, but also spiritually. That seemed to be the only way I could find some sort of integrity and feel safe. Kagome responded to the kiss, but she was sluggish and reluctant, as if she were completely exhausted and had no strength left for intimacy. Maybe we should go away? Away, Nico-san? I mean from Tokyo. Let's return to that village. They won't look for us there again. And let them hold my father hostage? I sighed heavily and lowered my head. A light breeze was sending a chewing gum wrapper somewhere on its wings. I really want to help with your father, but we should think about ourselves too, about our life and our future. I won't be able to live with the guilt of just leaving him behind. But... I involuntarily grimaced and turned away, praying to look at something in the distance. Kagome's feelings were understandable, and it only hurt our relationship if I tried to argue her down. But I couldn't just sit here and wait for God knows what. So I stood up and paced around in front of the bench. Nico-san, you don't have to go through all this with me, she said quietly. No way. You can't jump from a ship into the sea. Is that how it goes? I tried to recall a Japanese proverb. Nico-san, I'm already grateful you're trying. That's something I could never understand. What's the point in participating if the other team wins? You know, we have a saying, you can't put thank you on bread like it's butter. That's okay. I can't keep myself warm at night with the thought that I tried. But I can keep you warm at night. Kagome smiled cutely without any hint of vulgarity. Unfortunately, that won't be enough to save your father. I was tempted to chastise Kagome for talking a lot but doing nothing. Personally, it didn't seem like something shameful to me to retreat, at least temporarily, given an untenable situation. Plus, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't experience the tragedy of the situation like she did. It wasn't my father we were talking about. But if we take a step back to take two forward... Kagome jumped off the bench and clung to me. Nico-san, tomorrow we'll go to the corporation's building and tell him that I know everything. He can't just brush aside his own blood. You know it won't work. My arms hung powerlessly along my body, and I turned my head to the side as far as I could to avoid looking at her. Then we can go to the police, and... Or we could tell the journalist that he had an affair. Kagome, enough. Carefully but insistently pushed her away. Us suffering won't help your father. On the contrary, if we don't upset Kobayashi Jun, over time he might come to his senses and release him. After all, he's his son-in-law. Of course, I didn't believe any of that myself. Obviously, family relations weren't the almighty CEO of Kobayashi Corporation's first priority. I have suddenly thought that he could have well found Ellie earlier than she had been. And if that was the case... Have you ever read any books by Lem? Who? What does that have to do with anything, Nico-san? Kagome started to get angry. Lem is the best when it comes to describing an extraterrestrial mind. In most sci-fi by other authors, aliens have very human-like, guided by our logic and morals. But that can't be the case. Think about it. It'd be absurd for evolution to follow the same path on different planets. Nico-san. Kagome came at me menacingly. Wait, I'm almost done talking. So I'm trying to say that Kobayashi Jun is like an alien to us, and we're trying to predict his actions based on our primitive thinking. Basically, at any second, he might do something no one could ever expect. I was quite proud of myself for coming up with a theory like that on the spot. It's fundamentally unverifiable and thus couldn't be entirely wrong. Nico-san, do you really think he'll simply let my father go? I just want to say that we can't exclude the possibility. Kagome was looking at me, frowning more and more. Finally exploded, stomped her foot, turned around, and quickly walked towards the exit of the park. Some date. I mumbled under my breath and ran after her. Oh no, Phoenix is gone.